Yo, 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 it's your boy Greg from Big and Stuff back at it again with another video. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that as of recording this, we just passed 100 subscribers. I know that's not a ton compared to other people on this platform, but for me, it's an absolute dream come true, and it makes me beyond happy that you guys are enjoying the content. Thank you so much. It really means the world to me. Anyway, sappy stuff out of the way, you read the title, let's talk about manga. Obviously, this list is subjective, it really is just my personal favorites, and I haven't read every manga out there, so if your favorite series isn't on the list, then it's very possible I just haven't read it. Or your taste is just bad, that's possible too. Either way, definitely leave your list in the comments below. I'm always on the hunt for a new series to dive into, so I'd love to hear what you all recommend. Dragon Ball is an undeniable certified hood classic. I don't even need to explain what it is, you've heard of Dragon Ball. Arguably one of the most famous and popular manga series outside of Japan, largely thanks to its wildly successful anime adaptation. Dragon Ball, and I am including Z here since in Japan, Dragon Ball and DBZ are just called Dragon Ball, is a landmark title in the shonen space and a huge inspiration for a ton of the most popular series out there today. If you've only ever seen the anime, you may be under the impression that this series is slow-paced and overstuffed, with drawn-out fights that take place over dozens of episodes, hour-long screaming matches that drag the story to a halt, or nonsensical tangents into plot lines that are totally irrelevant to the main conflict. This is 100% due to the way that the anime was serialized alongside the manga and needed to be padded to avoid outpacing its source material, but I assure you that the original manga has none of these problems and delivers a non-stop, action-packed thrill ride from start to finish, with a charming sense of humor and some of the most over-the-top fight scenes in fiction that never ceases to impress. The series isn't perfect, and you can tell that the mangaka, Toriyama-sensei, was running out of steam a little bit as the story wraps up its final arc. But the overall package of lighthearted, goofy comedy in the early years, and intense pulse-pounding action in the later ones is truly deserving of its place as one of the all-time greats. This entry is pretty much like nothing else on the list. I usually tend to be a big shonen guy with a bit of seinen tossed in from time to time. I love big set pieces, deep world building, intricate power systems, and spectacular fight sequences. So when I tell you that a sweet, lighthearted, low-stakes, romantic, slice-of-life comedy series about a girl with social anxiety making friends in high school is one of my all-time favorites, you know that shit is good. This series is still quite new, and certainly hasn't had the impact or legacy necessary to be called a classic. I fully understand that it would not be on most people's top 5 manga of all time, even if they are really into slice of life. But man, as soon as I started this one, I instantly fell in love with it. Every character is so funny and likable, except Yamai. All my homies hate Yamai. And they all bring a unique quirk to the ever-growing dynamic of Komi's friend group. Komi herself strikes the perfect balance between adorable and purposeful. She's racked with intense social anxiety, and, as the title suggests, is nearly incapable of communicating with the people around her that she so desperately wants to fit in with. She's a very sweet and relatable protagonist that, while being a little bit exaggerated, really personifies the struggles that a lot of teens have in high school. And our POV character Tadano is a perfect straight man to all their antics, providing a rock to anchor the group while engaging in some fun dynamics of his own, especially his relationship with the titular Komi-san, as they evolve from acquaintances to friends to best friends to perhaps something more. It's easily the cutest thing I've ever seen, and seeing the two of them grow closer never fails to make me feel all warm and fuzzy. This may not be the most groundbreaking or visually impressive manga out there, but it's undeniably a huge comfort series for me and always leaves me with a huge smile on my face. Switching gears very drastically, we have Tatsuki Fujimoto's magnum opus, Chainsaw Man. It's an absolutely unrelenting roller coaster that will take your expectations for what a shonen battle manga can be and tear them apart like a blood-drenched chainsaw ripping through a zombie. Chainsaw Man is a baffling blend of pulpy grindhouse horror, raunchy workplace sitcom, and adrenaline-soaked action spectacle that seems on paper like it could never work. But in action, good God does it slap harder than hell. Chainsaw Man is genuinely hilarious, but never afraid to showcase the true horrors that serve as a brutal reflection of our own world. Lovable characters will be introduced and set up with a promising arc, just to die horribly a few chapters later. Awful creatures called devils, the embodiment and physical representations of human fears, roam the streets massacring innocent people en masse. The people meant to protect them are a corrupt and shady cabal of self-serving politicians and assassins. And the main character is a dude made of chainsaws with the heart of a cartoon dog, whose life's goal is to touch some boobs. The series is ridiculous to the extreme, and once the story gets going, it never stops hauling ass until that bombastic finale at the end of part 1. And it manages all of this while still having a core cast of characters that you can't help but fall in love with, and a storyline that only ever gets deeper and more intriguing as it goes, introducing an incredible amount of lore and world building into a breezy 97-chapter adventure. To top it all off, Fujimoto showcases some of the most inventive and monstrous creature designs in fiction, and tosses them into a chaotic and frenzied series of increasingly wild fights that read like a freight train from hell barreling full tilt into a meat grinder. The anime is currently airing as this video comes out, and the hype around this series is just going to keep getting bigger. So do yourself a big favor and check it out as soon as possible. You will not regret it. The sheer range and diversity of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is perhaps its greatest strength. Consisting of 8, soon to be 9, different parts, spanning across multiple decades and alternate universes, 3 wholly different and uniquely bizarre power systems, and encompassing a wide array of genres, JoJo stays consistently fresh by refusing to stop evolving. From an 1800s Bram Stoker-esque vampire hunt in Victorian England, to a small-town murder mystery in 1990s Japan, to a female-led prison break story in 2010's Florida, and so much more, Hirohiko Araki has been able to keep the series going for over 35 years now. Purely because, if he ever feels like he's done everything he can with a setting or a cast of characters, boom, change it all and do something completely different. And incredibly, it never feels disjointed or out of place. The story always follows some descendant of the Joestar lineage and their battle against evil. The sense of thematic continuity, hyper-stylized, high-fashion-inspired artwork, and unparalleled creativity hold the entire work together in a surprisingly cohesive way, and it all just looks and feels so damn cool, sometimes to the detriment of logic, but always in service to the overall package. Fights involve some of the most high-concept and occasionally convoluted ideas I've ever read, and the way the protagonist overcomes them is pretty much always either a complete ass-pull or the most brilliant 500 IQ strategy that you've ever seen, and rarely anything in between. JoJo is rule of cool incarnate, but it still manages to deliver on genuine emotion when it needs to. If you can suspend your disbelief and just give yourself over to this strange new world, there's nothing else like it. If you've kept up with my podcast at all, shout out to the Big and Stuff podcast, you should check that out later, then you'll know that I basically never stop talking about Berserk. I could genuinely go on and on for hours about all the feelings I have for this landmark series. But for this video, I'll keep it brief. Berserk is my favorite work of fiction of all time. Not just my favorite manga, but my favorite story, ever. Full stop. Berserk is violent and dark. It's about misery and heartbreak, and the awful things people are capable of doing to one another when pushed to a breaking point. The gorgeous artwork, easily the best I've seen in manga, exudes an atmosphere of dread and desperation, the sheer details truly capturing every expression and movement of every character and scene. Berserk is the tale of a broken, rage-filled young man making his way through a bleak and unforgiving world, but persevering at every turn, struggling on through every hardship and pain a human being could possibly endure, and learning how to open up again, how to love and care for the people around him, how to trust a group of strangers who become closer than a family. The way this series portrays trauma and grief and the rage of feeling like you have no control over any of it is simply astounding. It hits harder than anything I've ever read. I don't know what Kentaro Miura, Berserk's creator, went through in life. But the authenticity and soul poured into every panel and every piece of writing speaks volumes. The characters are so well realized and powerfully conveyed that it's difficult not to see them as real people and to root for them like you would for a close friend. They're complex and deeply flawed, but equally sympathetic and likable. The protagonist begins as little more than an edgy badass that fights monsters for some nebulous revenge, but trust me, as the story unfolds and the world and context around him is made clear, the deeper and more realized it all becomes. The story is heavy and deals with serious topics that'll make most people uncomfortable. I don't recommend this series lightly, and if you're sensitive to any of these topics, then proceed with caution. But I still believe it's at least worth giving it a try. And as rough and depressing as things get at times, this is ultimately a tale of hope, of optimism, of determination, of struggling against destiny, and appreciating the people who matter most to you. And it doesn't hurt that the action is badass as fuck. So that was my top 5 favorite manga of all time. What are yours? Is my taste awful or did I choose well? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you like that video, then show it. Smash that like button. And consider subscribing if you're interested in more stuff like this. It really does mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching. See you next time.